I'm going to crack it as if that was on my podcast.
I was going to say, I almost like queued up your podcast so that I could do it. So you can do it anytime you want.
Are we recording right now?
Yeah, of course.
Oh.
I mean, I can cut off or not cut off.
No,
I'm becoming like a mix master pro, by the way.
Well, you're just sneaky. You're just like, oh yeah, we're live.
Nice. We're going to do your beer open and my music. Go ahead, say it. Take a taste first. I'm going to turn the music on while you taste. Is it good?
No. Yeah, I don't get it. Here,
can I taste
sip.
it?
Ugh. It tastes like there's something like dirty on there on the finish. Ugh. I feel like they added river water to that White Claw. Maybe that's why they call it White Claw.
I mean, ew.
This episode is brought to you by White Claw. Hard seltzer.
Oh.
Today's flavor, black cherry.
Black cherry is the one that everybody says is supposed to be great.
That's what I hear. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it just tastes like seltzer water to me. So I'd have to drink the whole thing to see what I really think about it.
Did you ever drink those New York seltzers?
No, I'm not a bubbly water.
What?
Well, that's not true. Plain bubbly water. I don't need to fluff it up with
you're
flavor.
like older than me, right? They're like the little...
Fuck off. Barely. Like by 6 minutes or 4 years and 6 minutes. How old are you?
43.
I'm a little older.
Yeah. I'll be 44 soon.
I'll be 40.
But you never seen them? They're like
4.
the little bottles of like little seltzer water, and it says New York seltzer, and like they would have like the styrofoam wrapping back in the day. I think they might have changed that probably.
And yes,
because God forbid.
You can't have styrofoam anymore. Welcome, Danny.
Hey, thanks.
Danny. Pronounce your last name. I know how to say it, but I want to make sure.
People call you Danny?
They
Who calls
do.
you Danny?
Did you see that on the calendar invite? I put Danny plus Danny.
I did actually. Yeah. Now that you say that, that is true. Yes. Double D's.
People do. There's a whole group of people. Like, so I had a whole lifetime back in the Midwest and in car racing, and all of those people call me Danny.
Yeah.
Now the people who know me from like the last 5 years just call me Danielle.
You work in the pit?
Huh?
You work in the pit?
I did. I didn't actually like change tires and stuff.
No? Oh man, that would be
I
rad.
like that you asked that though, because most people always say, "Did you drive the cars?" I'm like, I was in IndyCar racing. If I drove the car, you would have heard of me.
Lower your
no, that I resonate with that way more than driving the car. But you would know who I am if I drove a race car. In IndyCar racing, you'd know who I am. So
yeah, you would make the headlines all day. You'd be on like Time Magazine and everything.
I would have been pre-Danica Patrick. Do you know who Danica Patrick is?
For sure.
I mean,
because
what dude does
exactly. Point taken. That's what I'm saying. You would be totally all over the magazines.
I was like ready to retire by the time she came on the scene. There's something.
She stole your thunder, yo. Are there a lot of women in?
Like, way more now. Yeah. Way more now. When I started in racing in 1994.
Yeah.
And the only other women in racing were PR girls. And then me. And I didn't do PR. Man. So I worked on the manufacturer side. So I was a badass.
That's wild. Because if social media was around back in the day, like you would be fucking famous.
Yeah. I was famous in the garage area. And
like
there
this
were
whole building would be your studio.
Right. There were two camps of people. There were people who loved me and people who hated me. And the people who loved me were men who wanted to get into my pants, sadly. And I was way too young to appreciate that. And then the other people hated me because my job was to...
They were too old to get in your pants and just old crotchety white men?
Some of the old fuckers wanted in my pants too. No, sure. I've got some stories, dude.
Oh.
Like this...
Here we are.
This was Me Too way before Me Too was a thing. The other guys who hated me were because they owed me money, and I had the power. This was great. Being in your early to mid 20s and having the power to keep a racing team off the track.
Yeah.
Because they owed me money and they needed parts, and I was holding them hostage because they owed me literally like tens of thousands of dollars. So the Indy 500, for anybody who's listening and knows racing, the Indy 500 is like a big fucking deal, right? I could keep people off the track because they owed money.
Yeah.
And so, and there were times that I did do that.
And get out from under your rock, people. Like, if you don't know
what the Indy 500
I mean,
is.
I'm not even like a big fan, but shit. Come on.
It was a. Oh gosh,
It's funny, like when I lived in North Carolina, and it was just after, it was probably like 95 or something like that. And I've always been a UNC fan, and not because of Michael Jordan. I don't even know why really, but maybe James Worthy, and he was a Laker, go Lakers. But I remember it was March Madness, and where I was working, we didn't have a TV.
And you were stuck watching Indy.
No, well, somebody brought a radio, and I was like, hell yeah. Like, to bring in the kitchen. And I was like, rad, dude. Like, you're going to put on the UNC game. And he was like,
He's like, no, I'm putting
man.
on Indy qualifying.
Yeah, for sure. He was like, I'm putting on NASCAR. And I was like, wait a minute. How do you listen to NASCAR on the radio? Like, watching it on TV
well, NASCAR
is garbage.
Is boring to watch.
Like, unless you're
It's
at
true.
the actual track, which, I mean, I've only, like, I think I've gone to Cedar Sport, of course, but I think there was like a track out in Monterey or something like that.
Laguna Seca.
Yeah. And then when I was a kid, we went there and like super close, and just so loud and just feeling the gust, like coming, because being like on the fence,
Oh, yeah.
and just like, whoa. So that was rad. But fuck my life. Like, come on. Nobody wants to listen to the radio or watch it on TV, bro.
No, not even people in racing. And as a matter of fact, during the month of May, so when I was in racing, the Indy 500 was a month-long event. And week after week after week, we were there 7 days a week, probably from 6 in the morning till sometimes 9 or 10 at night. And I worked on the manufacturer side. So I was always in a suite or something where, we had TV and live feed and all that kind of stuff. And we would watch, girl. I know I was super fancy. We'd watch like the Kentucky Derby and we'd watch always basketball because the Pacers at that point were good. Yeah. So we would watch, playoffs and that kind of thing. Did you see that? Like Siri just decided that it wanted to record what we're doing.
Pacers? No bueno.
She's like, good afternoon. What's up?
You're probably watching the Pacers get beat by my Lakers.
No, we were badasses then.
You're badass in like the 80s.
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. Do you know what's interesting? The only 2 times that the only 3 times that I've ever been interested in basketball, and I do think this is coincidental and not because I'm a fair weather fan, was in the late 80s, early 90s in Phoenix when the Suns and Charles Barkley and, so all those guys, Dan Marley. Oh my God, I think you just crushed on Dan Marley. As did every other.
Didn't he have a nickname? What was his name?
Thunder Dan.
Thunder Dan.
And he also had a bar, and I went in there one time and I saw him and I pinched his butt because he was walking right in front of me. Because I was a stupid girl who, I don't know what I thought that was going to happen.
It's funny how women can do that to men, but
I know. You're right. You're right about that. Me too. Then whenever the Pacers were winning the championships with Reggie Miller, I was into basketball then. I mean,
he never won.
Okay, whatever. They were
good.
They were good.
They were good. Yeah, they were good.
And then after
it was the last hope. Like after we beat them, it was pretty much game over from there. Yeah.
You're not from LA.
I was born in LA. Yes.
You were born in LA.
Pomona.
Oh, that's LA.
I mean,
there's also a racetrack there, a drag racing track there that's super famous.
But it's one of those things where it's like, my dad was a Laker fan. Family. So it just was kind of like bred into me. So that's all I kind of know. And I mean, he was a Raiders fan, an A's fan. And then, after them getting divorced, my stepdad was a Giants fan and Niners fan. And I hated my stepdad. So I was like, fuck those teams.
Yeah.
And so I rooted for the Raiders for a long time. I was like a Raider fan for a long time. And then it was just like, you guys are so terrible. Like and I don't really care that much about football and really enjoyed the Packers, watching the Packers play more. I think especially because like at those times when they would play the Niners and those games were so heated.
Wait, Packers? Like Green Bay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, fuck yeah, Packers, and especially, and I think it more so just because I hated the Niners and I liked seeing my stepdad sad.
Oh, was he from Green Bay? Wait,
no, he was a Niners fan. He was born and raised in San Francisco.
Oh, got it. He was the Niners fan. Okay.
But it was still the same thing. But still growing up around here, I mean, of course, I mean, I went to a lot of Warriors games, and especially, in those times, like we're on TMC, you know, it was like, yeah, I was all about them. So I do root for the Warriors. And so, you know, a lot of people always want to give me shit because they're like, "Who fucking Warriors and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, yeah, cool. You guys just got good finally. You know, like you guys had some good tries and
the Lakers are
you know,
good for generations.
some awesome moments. Yeah. But it was like, you know, but people don't, you know, maybe rightfully so. People live in the moment and they're like, yeah, but you guys suck now. And it's like, yeah, cool. We also sucked when we had Bloody Divots. And, you know, I got through those days too. And now.
What is your favorite sport? Like out of all of them?
Basketball, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Did you
I really
play?
care about.
You're tall. Did you play? You're not that tall.
I did.
You are tall.
Yeah, I'm not that tall, but I was the center. Yeah.
Don't you have to be super tall to be that?
Yeah, you should definitely be taller than me. And because there was probably like 3 of us that were about my height. Maybe one guy like another inch or so taller than me. But I could jump like a fucking gazelle. So
that's what works.
like right at the end of like my freshman year, I could start dunking. And then,
Wow.
yeah, the first time I ever dunked, it was like practice. I was sick and I was in there. And for whatever fucking reason, I was wearing like penny loafers and I was off to the side. And that was the first time I dunked was wearing penny loafers.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I don't know what's funnier, like dunking with penny loafers or you with penny loafers.
They're both. The whole scene is just
What did you wear?
terrible.
Like, normally, what was your attire?
I don't
in
know.
high
I was, you know, because I've always like been an odd kid, I guess, and just kind of always to the beat of
The
a different
opposite
drum, you
of
know. So,
everybody.
I never really got into, you know, what was popular and you know following trends and blah blah blah. And yeah, I mean, I remember like going into freshman year, and I started coming in wearing like MC Hammer pants and like clothes. And there was like one other dude.
You have got to send me photos of this.
I don't even think I have them, sadly. So yeah, so I became super isolated because you know, like 8th grade, I feel like I was, you know, like I knew all the cool kids and whatever and blah blah blah. But then it's just different, like getting into high school because then everybody has like their older siblings or their you know siblings or people blah blah blah. They just kind of know you through that, so you might get picked on, but you're kind of in that crowd.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Yeah. So I was just kind of did my own thing. And then I didn't really even play basketball. Maybe like towards the end of 8th grade I did. And that was the first time I really played. And then
you're dunking.
And then I was dunking. I could jump and I could block and I could get rebounds. And then I had a pretty wicked jump shot, like mid range, you know, and, you know, I put in the hustle. You know, my dad was Marine, so it was just like very intense. And so I had to be good.
So you mentioned that. Okay, so you mentioned your dad and then your stepdad. So
Yeah.
when did your parents split?
I think they tell me around like when I was 5
Oh,
or 6.
little.
Yeah.
Okay. And your
Yeah.
stepdad came in the picture how long after?
I don't know. It's really kind of fuzzy. You know, I mean, I know we moved up to Santa Rosa probably like when I was like 2 or 3. I remember like my my grandpa lived in Santa Rosa. We stayed with them. I remember a turtle and riding the turtle. And at that point it was so big because I was so
Yeah.
little. And then we used to live across the street from the DMV in Santa Rosa, but there was no DMV at that point. And so it was just like a bunch of kids and yeah, shit was just bad. And yeah, they got divorced. I don't know. There's just like moments where it's like that. And I remember being in a van. I remember my mom like being with this musician guy. And yeah, everything's super just blurry. And then it's just like remembering seeing my mom and my stepdad like drive away. We were at my aunt's house in Alameda, and then I don't know. And you know, and it's so weird.
And that was like you were still that young, or
I don't really know. Yeah, ish. So I could have been like 6, 7 at that point.
I mean, my parents split. Same thing. I don't exactly remember, but I was older. I was like, they tell me I think I was about 13.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I should, at that point, I should remember that. Like 5, you can kind of say, oh, maybe not, you remember. Yeah. But 13, I feel like you should remember. But I think maybe there's something more there, right? There's like trauma that goes with it or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, if there is trauma that goes with it or just some kind of emotion, I'm sure. You know, because when you hear about things and whether it's like, does it feel like some kind of parallel universe? And like, did that actually happen? You know, now I'm at this point where I'm like, did that actually really happen? Or have I just been telling this story for so long, you know, like, or just believing
Or your
that?
parents gave you a version of the story and that's just what you stuck to for a while?
No, because they don't